Imagine this. It's the morning of October 21st, 2016. You wake up, reach for your phone, maybe flip open your laptop, and nothing. The internet, the actual backbone of our modern lives, is just broken. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking the day the internet went dark, which is easily one of the most fascinating and honestly disruptive events in digital history.
So let's set the scene. What happened that October morning wasn't just your standard glitch, right? It wasn't just your local Wi-Fi acting up. Major platforms across the United States and Europe were suddenly experiencing this catastrophic, simultaneous failure. People were definitely confused at first, but as the hours ticked by, it became incredibly clear that this was a massive, coordinated blackout affecting the entire digital ecosystem.
And we are talking about the absolute pillars of the modern web here. Twitter, Netflix, Amazon, Spotify, Reddit, CNN, PayPal, they literally vanished from screens nationwide. Just try to imagine the sheer panic. You couldn't stream music on your commute, you couldn't check the news, you couldn't even pay for things. For a few hours, the digital world as we knew it just completely ground to a halt.
Chapter 1. Breaking the Internet's Phone Book.
Okay, to really understand what went down, we have to look past those big famous websites and talk about the unseen victim of this attack. It was an internet performance provider called Dyn. Now, Dyn controlled critical DNS infrastructure. You can think of DNS as basically the internet's phone book. When you type a website name into your browser, DNS is what translates those human words into a machine-readable IP address. So by taking out this single, crucial system, the attackers essentially burned the map of the internet. The websites were actually still there, but nobody's browser knew how to find them.
And here's exactly how they took that map away. Normally, a single user looks up a website, right? And the server simply responds. But in a DDoS attack, a distributed denial of service, the attackers absolutely flooded Dyn servers with millions of fake DNS queries. Since DNS doesn't require a traditional connection handshake to verify who's asking, these junk requests piled up ridiculously fast. It completely exhausted the server's CPU and memory until it just collapsed under the sheer weight of all that fake data.
Chapter 2. The Enemy Inside the House.
Now, when an attack of this magnitude goes down, you'd naturally assume it's the work of some hostile foreign government, right? Like some secret military bunker stuff. But no, this unprecedented attack came from mundane, everyday devices sitting right in people's living rooms. The weapon? An ordinary internet-connected security camera. Hundreds of thousands of these unsecured household gadgets were secretly infected with a nasty piece of malware called Mirai. And the wild part? Most owners had absolutely no idea their living room cameras had been hijacked and weaponized.
And it definitely wasn't just cameras. This Mirai malware aggressively scanned the web for vulnerable home Wi-Fi routers, baby monitors, and DVRs. It infected them using the simplest trick in the book, guessing factory default usernames and passwords. You know, those admin123 passwords that, let's be honest, almost nobody bothers to change. By doing this, the malware strung together all these harmless little gadgets into a massive remote-controlled army. We call this a botnet.
600,000. That number is just staggering. The Mirai botnet rapidly swelled to a peak of roughly 600,000 infected devices all over the globe, with massive concentrations in places like Brazil, Colombia, and Vietnam. So you have this huge global web of low-powered gadgets all just quietly waiting in the background for a command to strike.
To really wrap our heads around the sheer volume of this botnet, take a look at the history of previous attacks on a well-known cybersecurity blog called Krebs on Security. When you compare those older attacks to the massive, totally unprecedented spike generated by Mirai, it was a complete paradigm shift. The bandwidth generated by these cheap everyday devices completely eclipsed the DDoS capabilities of any prior botnet in history. Which leads us right to the attack on Dyn itself, which hit a reported 1.2 terabits per second. Just to put that crazy number into perspective for you, that attack strength was roughly twice as powerful as any similar attack on record at the time. Twice as powerful! It was quite literally a tsunami of data that Dyn's defenses simply could not absorb. And that's exactly what caused those rolling internet outages across the US and Europe.
Chapter 3. Unmasking the Culprits.
So with half the internet reeling, the whole world is demanding to know, who orchestrated this? Was it a nation-state? Some highly sophisticated cyber syndicate? Well, the truth that investigators eventually uncovered was almost hard to believe. The masterminds weren't cyber warfare generals. They were 3 young college students. Seriously. They built the Mirai botnet not to topple Western infrastructure, but because they were chasing money, hacker forum clout, and, get this, dominance in the online gaming world. They were specifically targeting servers for games like Minecraft.
The whole sequence of events escalated incredibly fast.
Back in September 2016, these original hackers hit that Krebs on Security blog. But once they realized the feds were onto them, they tried to hide their tracks by releasing the Mirai source code publicly on a hacker forum on September 30th. And wow, that was a critical mistake for the internet. Releasing the code allowed random copycats all over the world to take it, build their own Mirai botnets, and launch that historic, devastating attack on Dyn on October 21st.
As you might guess, the business consequences for Dyn were absolutely brutal. In the wake of the attack, over 14,000 internet domains dropped Dyn as their DNS provider. That was an immediate 8% loss of their entire customer base. It just goes to show that a targeted botnet attack, even one launched by amateur script kiddie copycats, can cause truly devastating financial and reputational damage to an industry-leading tech giant.
Chapter 4. The Lingering Threat.
Now you might be sitting there thinking, well, hey, that was way back in 2016. Surely we've fixed this mess by now. But brace yourself for this next number, 29.7 terabits per second. Remember how Mirai was 1.2 Tbps in 2016? Well, the Isuru botnet identified in 2024 hit a staggering 29.7 Tbps capacity. Threat actors out there are still exploiting known, unpatched vulnerabilities because there's an endless, constantly growing supply of poorly secured smart devices all over the world. The threat hasn't gone away at all, it's actually escalated to terrifying new heights.
It's not all doom and gloom, though. Network defenders definitely aren't just sitting still. Today, they're fighting back using layers of advanced techniques. They use rate limiting to put a hard cap on the number of queries coming from a single source. They also use something called Anycast DNS to distribute incoming traffic across multiple geographic nodes, so no single server has to bear the entire load alone. Plus, they employ behavioral-based filtering to analyze query patterns in real time, basically tossing out the junk requests without interrupting the legitimate users.
Yet, even with all those clever defenses in place, this quote from David Fiddler at the Council on Foreign Relations really lingers like a dark cloud over the tech industry. He said, "Imagine what a well-resourced state actor could do with insecure IoT devices." And he's spot on. If a couple of college kids and copycats using baby monitors and cheap routers could literally bring down half the internet, the potential for a highly coordinated state-sponsored attack using that exact same playbook is, frankly, chilling.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative question to think about. What happens when the next botnet targets our physical infrastructure? What happens when it hits our hospitals, our power grids, or our transportation systems, instead of just our social media feeds? The 2016 Dyn attack was a massive wake-up call, a stark reminder of the true fragility of the billions of smart devices powering our modern lives. It's a vulnerability we all share, and definitely one we've got to take seriously as our world becomes more connected every single day. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.